Welcome to our deep dive today. We're going to be exploring the world of Ethiopian author Adam Reta.
Okay.
And we actually have an interview with him where he kind of lays out his entire writing philosophy.
Sounds fascinating.
Yeah. The interesting thing is he uses a really unexpected metaphor to explain it all, and that's injera, that traditional Ethiopian flatbread.
Oh, wow. I'm intrigued already.
Yeah.
Injera, it's such a central part of Ethiopian culture, with its unique texture and the way it's shared.
Right.
It seems like it could be a really powerful way to understand not just Reta's style, but also, like you said, broader trends in Ethiopian literature.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's dig into this injera metaphor a bit more.
Okay.
One of the things Reta focuses on are those little holes in the bread.
Ah, the eyes.
Yes, exactly. The eyes.
Mm-hmm.
And he connects them to this concept of his sinowinet, which basically means interconnectedness of ideas.
Interconnectedness, huh?
Right. It's this idea that everything's linked in some way. And he even points out that the Amharic word for those holes is Ainu, which also means eye.
Oh, wow. So there's a double meaning there.
Yeah, and it ties back to ancient sun worship and the idea of like a central unifying force.
I see. So the eyes of the injera are like windows into this broader interconnectedness.
Exactly. And what's really fascinating is that Rita sees these eyes as spaces where new interpretations can emerge.
Oh, that's interesting.
Like each hole is kind of a different entry point into a larger interwoven narrative.
I like that.
And this idea becomes even more interesting when you think about the impact of the 1974 revolution on Ethiopian society.
Yeah, how does that play into it?
Well, Rita talks about how the revolution led to this kind of fragmentation of Ethiopian life.
Fragmentation, okay.
Yeah, and it kind of pushed people away from these like linear narratives.
I can see how that would happen.
Right. And he sees this mirrored in the structure of injera itself.
In what way?
Well, injera is anything but linear,
Yeah, it's definitely not a straight line.
Right. It's like this complex network of interconnected pathways, much like the reality of post-revolution Ethiopia.
So the injera becomes a way to represent that reality.
Exactly. This kind of intricate, multi-layered reality where meaning is created through those connections and relationships rather than just a straight timeline.
That makes a lot of sense.
And this idea of interconnectedness, it goes way beyond just literature for Reta.
Oh, really?
He believes this injera metaphor can help us understand Ethiopian society as a whole.
So like politics, economics, history.
All of it.
Yeah.
Even the individual's place within the universe.
Wow, that's pretty profound.
Yeah. And it gets even more complex because he connects injera to some pretty complex mathematical concepts too.
Like what?
Like chaos theory and fractals.
Oh, wow. So he's suggesting that even in a world that feels chaotic, there's this underlying order connecting everything.
Exactly. It's not just a simple food analogy here.
No, definitely not.
It sounds like he's using injera to explore some pretty big ideas about reality and how we make sense of the world.
It's a really interesting approach.
Yeah. And what makes it even more compelling is how he actually translates all of this into his writing style and the themes he explores in his stories.
I'm curious to hear more about that.
Let's dive into that next.
Okay, sounds good. I think one of the clearest ways you see this metaphor playing out is in Reta's love for short stories and what he calls composite fiction.
Composite fiction.
Yeah, even his novels are structured more like a series of interconnected episodes rather than a traditional, like, linear narrative.
So each episode is like looking through a different eye of the injera.
Exactly. A different angle on the bigger story or a unique perspective on something they all share.
I see.
Like take his novel, Jaracha Kakilov, for example.
Okay.
It's basically a bunch of interconnected vignettes that jump around in time and from different perspectives.
Kind of like the nonlinear structure of injera.
Exactly. And that lets him explore these really complex themes like displacement and the trauma of conflict in a way that feels both fragmented and whole at the same time.
That's really interesting.
It is. And then there's his focus on the relationships between children and stepmothers.
Yeah, he's talked about that before, right?
He has. He says even though he didn't have a stepmother himself, he sees that relationship as this powerful symbol.
Of what?
For understanding, like, the bigger tensions within society.
I never thought about it that way.
It's interesting, right? And it actually directly reflects that his Inoinet concept we talked about earlier.
The interconnectedness thing.
Yeah, the stepmother, like, disrupts that traditional family structure.
Bringing in a whole new level of complexity.
Exactly, and challenging those existing power dynamics, which then opens up all these new possibilities for stories and interpretations.
Just like the eyes in Injure.
Exactly. So it's not really about literal stepmothers.
It's about what they represent.
Right. Those unexpected elements that shake things up and make us rethink our ideas about family society, even our own identities.
I see.
And then there's another way Reta disrupts expectations.
How so?
His titles. He doesn't go for those big poetic titles.
What does he do?
He uses everyday language, like phrases you'd hear people actually saying, sometimes even slang.
Really?
Yeah, it makes the reader kind of stop and think.
Yeah, like, what is this?
Right, it challenges those assumptions about what's considered literary language.
It's like he's saying literature can be found anywhere, not just in fancy books.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And this idea of making literature accessible is also really important to him.
In what way?
He's really insistent on factual accuracy in his writing.
Oh, that's interesting.
He believes that getting the details right is crucial for creating believable worlds and characters that people can relate to.
Even when he's dealing with tough topics.
Especially then, I think it shows a real respect for his readers.
Like he trusts them to handle the truth.
Exactly. He's not trying to sugarcoat anything or give easy answers. He wants to help people understand the complexities of the world through his own unique lens.
That's powerful.
It is, but it's important to acknowledge that Rita's journey as a writer hasn't been easy.
In what sense?
Well, he's been pretty open about the negativity he's faced within the Ethiopian literary scene.
What kind of negativity?
Like jealousy from other writers, critics who haven't been supportive. And he's also really critical of the lack of support for writers in general in Ethiopia.
He's even said that a real literary world doesn't really exist there because of that.
It's tough to hear that someone with so much talent and dedication has faced those kinds of obstacles.
Yeah.
But it also speaks to his resilience, you know? He keeps writing and experimenting despite all of that, pushing the boundaries of what Ethiopian literature can be.
It makes you wonder what he could accomplish with more support.
It really does.
Yeah.
But even amidst all those challenges, he still offers some great advice for aspiring writers.
What kind of advice?
He really emphasizes the importance of developing your own unique voice and staying true to your own experiences.
Like write what you know.
More like write who you are. He believes that's what makes a writer's work truly resonate with readers and contribute something meaningful to the world of literature.
That's good advice for anyone, really.
It is. It's about finding your voice and expressing it authentically, no matter what you do.
And it all ties back to Reta's overall philosophy, which is so rooted in Ethiopian culture and this desire to push boundaries and explore new possibilities within literature. So even though he might be facing an uphill battle in terms of getting more recognition, his work shows what's possible when you combine artistic vision with that commitment to exploring the complexities of your culture and the world.
It's a testament to the power of creativity to challenge norms and expand our understanding of what literature can be.
It makes you think about all the other talented voices out there who might be struggling to be heard because they don't have the support they need.
It raises some important questions about how we can better support writers and artists.
Yeah, what would it look like if there were more resources and opportunities available to them?
It's definitely something to think about. But for now, let's shift gears a bit and focus on one final aspect of Reta's work, his perspective on the act of writing itself.
So we've been talking about Adam Reta and his unique storytelling. But one thing that really strikes me is how he sees the whole act of writing.
Yeah.
It's like he approaches it almost like a scientific experiment,
Yeah.
you know?
I can see that. He's always pushing the boundaries of language, experimenting with structure and form, always searching for new ways to express his ideas.
It's not just about sitting down and writing a story in the traditional way.
Definitely not.
It's about actively engaging with language, like it's a tool for discovery.
And you can see that in how he rejects those linear narratives and embraces fragmentation and multiple perspectives.
Going back to that injera metaphor,
Yeah.
each eye offers a different way of seeing things,
Yeah.
a different entry point.
And he's inviting us as readers to kind of participate in that discovery process, to piece together the fragments and create our own meaning from the story.
He's not giving us all the answers.
Nope.
He wants us to think critically, to question things.
To really engage with the text on a deeper level.
And this reminds me of his advice to writers, you know?
About developing your own voice.
Yeah, get the facts right and find your own unique way of expressing them.
Those two things seem to be at the core of everything he does.
Absolutely. Accuracy makes his worlds believable.
Even when he's dealing with those more fantastical elements.
Right. And developing a unique voice allows him to share his perspective authentically.
Without relying on those tired old cliches and conventions.
And I think that authenticity is especially important when you think about the challenges he's faced as a writer.
In Ethiopia.
Yeah. By staying true to his own vision and experiences, he's able to create work that speaks to both the specific and the universal.
Connecting the complexities of Ethiopian society with the larger human experience.
And you could almost say that his commitment to experimentation and challenging those conventions
It's a form of resistance.
in a literary landscape that can be pretty limiting,
Exactly. He's showing other writers that it's okay to break free from the mold.
to explore new possibilities.
Yeah.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Adam Reta's work,
Yeah.
I think the biggest takeaway for me is this: don't be afraid to challenge conventions
To experiment.
and to find your own voice,
Whether you're a writer, an artist,
or just someone trying to figure out life.
embracing that spirit of exploration and authenticity.
It can lead to amazing things.
And who knows, maybe the next great literary masterpiece will be inspired by something as simple as a piece of injera.
The possibilities are endless if we're open to them.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Adam Reta.
It's been a pleasure.
We encourage you to check out his work and experience his unique vision for yourself.
You won't regret it.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning.
And keep diving deep.